Hello everyone and welcome to Mindful Moment Crochet. Today we're going to be doing something, I'll call it crochet adjacent. So this is going to be a tutorial on Tunisian crochet. This is my set from Clover. I think I got it on sale from Amazon. Tunisian crochet is a little bit different than regular crochet. So if you have a basic hook, even if it does have a little bit of a thumb rest, that will still be okay for this. You just don't want true ergonomic handles for Tunisian crochet. Tunisian crochet is a little bit like if crochet and knitting had a baby and they made Tunisian crochet. So what we want is something that has a relatively flat surface, right? Not the ergonomic handle. True Tunisian crochet hooks will look like this, and they even have a little kind of screw-on port at the end here where you can attach various different sizes of cords to make them very, very long if you wanted to. And then you have your nice long cord. Nice long cord. There we go. And then when you are done making your cord, whatever length you need it to be, because you can attach another hook, there is a method that uses that as an option. But if you're done with your cord, then you would just put a stopper on it, like that. There we go. So this is what a full Tunisian kind of setup looks like. Some people will call it Afghaning. So you might hear different terminologies for it, but this is what they're talking about. So let's get into why Tunisian crochet. Tunisian crochet has a lot of different options. I think there's over 400 stitches you can do in Tunisian crochet. There's lots of different handbooks on it, lots of different tutorials online about it. And this is just going to be a very, very basic tutorial. Basically just how to do the Tunisian simple stitch so you can see a little bit about it. Might even throw in a knit stitch because I think it's really pretty, and I think it's an easy way if you want to mimic knitting without having to learn how to knit, which can be a fun life hack. All right. So if you want a set like this, they can be a little bit pricey depending on the brand. Full price, this one, I think I saw it at Michael's today for about $170. I got mine on sale, like I said, through Amazon. I think it was $75, which if you think about it, for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, for 9 hooks, plus all the cords, and then 5 little stoppers, I don't think that's that bad. I do think $170 is a bit steep. So anyways, that's what Tunisian crochet hooks look like. Now, I am going to use just a regular basic, I think this is a Susan Bates, it was like $1, maybe $2, for one of these little hooks. Cheap plastic. If you're wanting to make something small, this is kind of the way to go. So, just like in regular crochet, or even knitting, we are going to start with a slip knot. And then for the purpose of this, I'm just going to chain, we'll do 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right, so let's immediately talk about some differences here. 1, this is Michael's Impeccable brand yarn, and it calls for a size H crochet hook. I would never use a size H crochet hook for Tunisian crochet. I sized all the way up to a J, so H-I-J, two whole hook sizes up in order to make this sample. Tunisian crochet is known for curling in on itself like a burrito, so you're going to want to make sure that your tension is a little bit looser than normal, and you might want to just kind of play around with how far up in crochet hook sizes you want to go in order to make it have the tension you want. but ultimately you're probably going to need to block this and let it kind of relax and chill out a little bit before you do anything. All right, the next difference besides the hook size is we count the loop that is on the hook. So this one is going to count as our first stitch in Tunisian crochet compared to not counting it in regular crochet. The next thing we want to do that is also going to be different is we are going to stick our hook through the next loop. We're going to yarn over and pull up a loop and then just push it farther onto our hook. So we want to leave it there. And we're going to do the same thing all the way across. And this is where if you were going to make something like a blanket, you would need those long cords. But if you're just doing a little swatch, you can probably get away with a little basic crochet hook. Like I said, as long as it doesn't have a big ergonomic handle on it. All right. And we are all the way back across. We'll do a quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Perfect. So when we get back to this first one, we are going to yarn over and pull through 1. And that's going to be the equivalent of chaining up to your next row, how we would do in regular crochet for like a single crochet stitch. Now for the rest of the way across, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, 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 pull through 2. You should be maybe getting the hang of this now. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, through 2, through 2, through 2, through 2, through 2, and through 2, and stop. And so you should end up with 1 on your hook, and your first row should look a little like that. I think this is very pretty. I think it almost has more of a modern design because of those lovely little bars that it makes. Now the reason Tunisian crochet likes to curl is because we work all on the front. So what's going to happen next is we're going to go back through and pull up all those little bars. And so what it's going to do is it's going to pull up the bottom with it. That's how we end up with the curl. So it's like this. We're going to go back and we're going to pull up those front bars, and it's going to pull up that bottom with it. And so that's how Tunisian crochet ends up curling. So if it's curling on you, just know you're not doing anything wrong. That's why though, is because we're almost like rotating that first row of work. All right. So we talked about how the first stitch is the hook on the hook on the hook. The loop on the hook, there we go, counts as our first. So we have already basically picked up that first bar right there because it's hanging out on our hook. So we are going to go under this first vertical bar, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Vertical bar, stick it right under, and pull up a loop. This is where I think Tunisian crochet is easier than regular crochet. Once you get the hang of the tension and making sure you pull up those loops, you make sure you have room for the hook to wiggle around, it does make it pretty easy to see. You're not having to aim for those little V's on top. So we're gonna go into the next one and pull up a loop. Same thing all the way across. And like I said, you just want to make sure you pull up enough of a loop because you're going to have to go right back through this. it's curling up on me like a little burrito. And that's okay. That's normal. Even though we have really pulled it up and there is space under there, Tunisian crochet just likes to curl, and that's okay. All right, when we get down to this last one, we're gonna pause. So we picked up this last vertical bar. We're just gonna go under, you can kind of twist it and see here on the edge, we kind of have like the letter D, right? D is in dog, a little lowercase d right there. So we have the vertical bar that we need to pick up, but we also need to grab his little loop in front. So we're gonna go under both of those and pull up. There we go. So same thing on our return pass. We are going to yarn over and pull through one for our chain one, and then yarn over, pull through two, 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 through two, through two, through two, all the way back across. Oop. Need some more yarn here. Through two, through two, and through two. And then when we pull up, you'll notice that even though we did the forward pass of pulling up the loop and what's called the return pass of going back through each one of those, it has this like airy look to it. Now, when I first started Tunisian crochet, I thought what was happening was I was filling in the gap essentially when I went back that way for my forward pass. What's actually happening when you go back across and what's getting rid of that space isn't your forward pass. It fills it in by pulling this up and pushing that part down. See how it got rid of the gap right here on this one? So when you pull up a loop, it pushes that back piece down. So forth and so on. So this part, this ridge that's currently at the top, goes back down into the stitch where it belongs and fills it in. And then that's how you get your next one. Now this is important when you do color work with Tunisian crochet, is understanding the anatomy of a stitch. The other piece about Tunisian crochet that is important to understand is you have two vertical bars. So if you think about if this were regular crochet, right, we would have our V hanging out on top. But for Tunisian crochet, it's these two vertical bars that hang out right here. So we're picking up the front vertical bar when we go back through. But knowing where these two vertical bars are will really be helpful later in your Tunisian crochet journey for things like knit stitch. There are ones that require you to kind of cross over. So knowing what you're picking up and what the anatomy of the stitch is can be super, super helpful. So that is the simple stitch. Now let's talk color change. If I were to want to change colors, which let's say I do, just like in regular crochet, I would stop with 2 loops on my hook. And then I would grab my second color, and I would pull through those 2, right? Because that's now my first stitch of my next row. And this is to change per row. There are techniques on how to change within a row and things like that, but just for the sake of this tutorial, we'll go with the beginning of the row. So now I'm just going to go back down and grab all of my vertical bars like so. And again, when we get to that last one, we're going to turn, we're going to find that D, and we're going to slip underneath that one and make sure we pull it up, and then chain 1 and then back across in our green. And so because color changes in Tunisian crochet are so clean, you don't get quite that jagged edge like you do in regular crochet. This can be really pretty if you do things like mosaics or intarsia, things like that. All right. Now, if we want to alternate, so let's say I want green in the front and silver in the back, for example, I would go ahead and pull up all of my loops in this lovely green color. And so whatever you want the post to be, that's the color you want to have on your forward pass. Whatever color you want behind the post is the color you want your return pass to be. And find that post with a little loop that's attached to the stitch below it. And pull up those two. Now, if I want the background to be silver, this would be where I would introduce it. So I'm going to go right back through here. Oh, I goofed. Let's try that one more time. I need to chain 1 in my original color. There we go. And now go back. Sorry about that. Just like that. All right. And so again, if I want my green to be my background color, I'm going to go back through and I'm going to pull up my front bars in this silver color, this gray color. And as you can see, as I pull up these stitches, it's pushing that gray that was kind of on top there into the background of those green stitches. And then, so I didn't really cut my green off. Just wanted to do funky things, but I'm gonna go right under that end stitch to grab those last 2 loops. And then we pulled up, we're gonna chain 1. And now if we want the background to be green, we're going to change back to our green, pull through 2, pull through 2, all the way back across. There you go. Now, again, you can't really see that green. It kind of disappears. It kind of looks super empty under there. Not really what we're going for. So let's say on the next round I want to go back to this solid green color that I had down here. We're going to go back and we're going to pick up our green loops. So again, the forward pass is going to make those bars, which is pretty easy to tell. And see how as we pull up the bars, it puts tension on the front of the project to pull it up and kind of pushes down what's currently on the top here. So it rotates it like this and opens it up, which is why there's so much tension on the front in Tunisian crochet, because we're just really pulling at it. Now, Tunisian crochet is not reversible in most stitches, so that's something to think about. The front will have these nice, pretty lines. The back will be bumps, and I'll show you that in just a second. So we'll grab that one, and I think he kind of tilted just a little bit. We'll grab him here at the end. There we go. So again, my forward pass is going to make the bars. My return pass, after we chain one, my return pass is going to turn it all green. So if you're thinking about color work or designing something, or just kind of getting comfortable with how the stitch works in Tunisian crochet, this is a super helpful way to kind of see what the anatomy of a stitch is. I have to understand the why, or I guess the how, to be able to really see what happens. So again, these bars represent using gray as our forward pass, going this way and picking up the loop. The silver in the back, or the gray in the back, represents using it as our return pass, which is going backwards, where we pull up a loop, pull through two, pull through two, pull through two, all the way back across. Now, let's talk about how to get this to be where we are done with our project. So obviously, if you have done a whole lot of work on a Tunisian crochet project and you have all this lovely, you have all your pretty bars, you have all your pretty background colors, everything is good to go. And then you get to this top one and it's wholly and not really gonna, it doesn't have the same structural integrity that the rest of it does. In order to finish Tunisian crochet, we have to essentially cast off or bind off, which is why, again, this is where knitting terms kind of come back in. So holding all the stitches on your hook is very knitting-esque, and then having to cast off, bind off, etc. is very knitting-like. So that's kind of how they combine there. So to finish a Tunisian crochet project, remember we have our first one up here. We're going to pull up a loop, and then we're going to pull that first one off. And we want to make sure our tension is a little bit looser in this top one, so that we don't end up tugging our project over. We want to make sure it stays nice and flat. So make sure your tension's a little bit looser on this top row. And pull up a bar and pull through that one. Pull up your next front bar and pull through that one. And we're just going to slip stitch all the way back off. Pull up a loop and cast it off. Pull up a loop. Off we go. And slip stitch. Pull up a loop, 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 oop, slip stitch. And same thing, we don't cheat on this last one. We're going to go underneath those two bars at the very edge there. And if you need help finding them, you can kind of use maybe like a fingernail or something to separate it out just a little bit. And so you can see I got just enough space to see those two bars right there. I'm going to go underneath that first one. There it is. And then I also want to find his shadow, which is hanging out right here. One. Oh, kind of closed them off for me. Okay, we're gonna try again. Put that one back on my hook. He decided to go swimming. There we go. Took a dive. All right, so once we get to that very last one, and same thing, we will slip stitch that one through there. And that is the basics of Tunisian crochet. And I just think it's so pretty. I think it's a little bit different than, you know, being able to do things like just crochet or just knitting. I think it's kind of it's just pretty. I like the little lines that it makes. I think it's just a different appeal to it. I'll put it that way. Now, what's kind of fun is there's something called the Tunisian knit stitch. And just for time's sake, I won't restart a different project, but I'm just going to take our cast off for just a second. So in talking about the anatomy of a stitch, these two vertical bars, so here's the front vertical bar, here's the back vertical bar. If we go in between them and pull up a loop nice and tall, we have to be even more careful with our tension with this particular stitch. I'm going to pull it up nice and tall all the way across. So between these two vertical bars and underneath that kind of top, right? So you have the top stitches there, and then you have the two vertical bars hanging out underneath through those two. And again, make sure you leave yourself a lot of slack in this particular stitch. And the knit stitch can be worked across any number of stitches. It doesn't have to be odd or even. It doesn't have to be multiples of anything. And again, when you get to the end here, we're still going to use those last two like we've been doing. And we will pull that one up, chain one, just like we've been doing. And our return pass is going to be the exact same. Pull through, pull through, pull through. So we're just going to pull through two all the way back across. Make sure we're only letting go of 2 loops at a time. There you go. Now, you might already be able to see a little bit of the knit look forming, but let's do another row just because we can, right? All right, so we're going to go in between those 2 vertical bars. Make sure you pull up nice and tall. In between those 2 vertical bars, pull up nice and tall. Between the vertical bars, pull up nice and tall, all the way back across. And again, if you need help, kind of find that hole that's made with Tunisian crochet, and then rotate, and you should be able to see those 2 vertical bars and go right in between them. Missed it on that one. Let's try again. There we go. And on the last ones here, same thing. We always want to find those 2 on the very edge and pull up. So we're going to go through 1, and our return pass is the same. Pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. Ta-da! All right. And now you should be able to start seeing those little V's that it makes, just like knitting does. Kind of cheats, just a little bit. But it starts to create that same pattern. Obviously it's a little bit different than knitting because you can separate it, but the look of it creates a really pretty knit type pattern. So it's something worth trying if you aren't sure you want to knit, but you like the look of knitting. You can certainly use the Tunisian knit stitch in your work. Find a fun pattern that has the knit stitch. Practice it a couple times. See if you like the look of it. Like I said, this one is one that you're really going to have to be mindful about your tension because you're twisting it not just up, but you're also twisting it side to side. So it likes to get really tight. So just make sure you have enough space. But these are my two favorite Tunisian crochet stitches. There are tons. There's the honeycomb, there's diagonals, there's crosses, there's all kinds of fun things out there that you can learn with Tunisian crochet. So I hope you will just kind of take this on your journey and maybe find a cool pattern. I think this is a really fun way to make blankets. I feel like this goes faster than crochet or knitting. But it is pretty thick. It makes a very dense fabric, I will say that. So if you're not looking to be warm, don't opt for Tunisian crochet. But I think it is very pretty and how it turns out. So yeah, this is kind of the start of Tunisian crochet. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments below. I'm going to work on casting off my piece here, just so I can say I did. As always, you want to end with whatever stitch pattern you are working on, so you don't end up with something that doesn't look like everything else in your work. But Tunisian crochet is a fun, simple way to add variety. If you already know how to crochet, this should be pretty easy. I would say the transition to this is easier for me than knitting. I'm working on trying to knit. I've made a bag, so we'll see how that goes. But again, you're learning a new skill. This is something that might take time. Take some deep breaths. Watch the video again. Be kind to yourself. And if Tunisian crochet is not in the budget, you don't want to have to buy another piece of equipment. You don't want to have to buy another tool to do a hobby. Don't worry about it. This is just an option. You can do stuff like this with it all day long if you would like. I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. Here's a quick look of what the back looks like. So you can see that the knit stitch is so much thicker. You can almost see there's like a ridge. So the knit stitch is going to make a considerably thicker fabric. But I just think it's beautiful. It does kind of have those purl bumps like knitting does. Ignore that. That was just from my color changes that I was showing. But so it's not reversible. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully something else to add if you need an escape from the world right now. But yeah, just a fun way to add an extra tool to your repertoire. All right. As always, like, subscribe. Hope this was helpful for you. Enjoy a fun new thing.